This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
Hey, what is up, guys? Super excited about the show today. We're going to be getting into some pretty heavy-duty stuff. I know a lot of you have had concerns about data security, and we're going to get into that, cybersecurity. We're even going to talk about with your employees working from home. That's going to be awesome. But I have Lauren, what would you call yourself? Like, if you had to give yourself like an official title, what's your LinkedIn title?
What's my LinkedIn title?
Yeah. Do you know?
Well, I guess my LinkedIn title would be business development or, I don't know, chief strategy guru.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. So we're going to get into systems. We're going to get into all kind of stuff, tech world. I think that'll be really cool. So I'm going to do this. You guys, everybody knows I struggle with last names. So this will be a good practice for me. We were even trying this off the air, but it's Lauren Trujillo. I screwed it up. I can't believe I messed that up. Yep. Okay. How do you pronounce it? Now, there's probably because that's the last name's really popular in New Mexico, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's pronounced Trujillo, and most people know me by my maiden name, which is Hall. But yeah, so a lot of times people will negate the Trujillo and say, "Wait, can I just call you Hall?"
Yeah, I know. I noticed that one, and then V Hill, which that one's easy to pronounce, but there's a lot of people named that here in New Mexico. Must be like really old families or something.
Yes.
So cool. So we're going to get into, let's start off with, you did a press release, and there was, and I read it and I was like, okay, I need to read this again 3 times. Obviously you're like ultra smart. You created this program for this, tech company. Can you kind of go into, in layman's terms, can you kind of explain it, and then we'll get into the kind of the complicated parts of it?
Yeah, so I created a channel program. There's 2 ways that people call it. You either hear people say, I need a partner program, or I need to create a channel. And essentially, the channel that I created for the tech company here in Albuquerque is, a way to expand your reach or your sales force outside of New Mexico. I created this program to kind of be a 3-tiered level to kind of incentivize other companies to partner with us, sell our services, leverage each other's relationships, and just really kind of expand the networking outside of just our New Mexico client base here.
So when you get into because some of the things that you talked about, where you talk about strategic business development, and you use the word moves, so is this talking about, as far as, would we simplify it like it's a way to kind of network?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's partially a kind of a way to network, but I think primarily what it is it's a way to say, you can achieve various tiers within this channel program. So if I'm a reseller out of Austin, Texas, and, I need to sell something that, might be, might need some sort of a data center or rack space or something to kind of house like a software-defined network or a software-defined platform. You can kind of reach into your bucket of what do I have available to me and say, hey, I have this data center in Albuquerque, because I'm a partner, I have a competitive advantage. And what that does is it not only allows us to expand our sales outside of New Mexico, but it allows other companies within other states to kind of get to know New Mexico, get to know what we have here, and kind of, get to know us a little bit better. So you have a little bit of networking in there, but you also have a way of tapping into other companies' client bases or their resources, maybe with some collaborative marketing, or maybe they have some campaigns that they're targeting other clients that, you didn't think about.
Yeah, like one of the things I really noticed is, and you were talking about like the overall goal is growth. So as a company, when you're doing these co-marketing, and you have on here collaborative campaigns, co-selling, and all that, and we'll get into each of those. But like growth, is this something that you're trying to get outside of New Mexico, or what are you looking at when you think growth when you're partnering like this?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to be said about bringing tech into New Mexico as well as looking outside of New Mexico for resources. I think when we identify, and we've had about 7 companies already apply and sign up for this partner program that are not in the state of New Mexico. And I think for them, New Mexico is, for data center purposes, we are great because we don't have any kind of natural disasters, right? So we don't have to worry about anything really hurting or taking down the structure of a data center here. So we don't have those same worries that maybe someone might have in like a Houston, Texas, or Florida or whatever. And when we have the ability to be flexible, being that we're a small business on our pricing, they have the ability to say, well, I'm selling a software defined platform or a software defined network, and I need to house it somewhere that's really safe where there will be no downtime. We have the ability to come in competitively priced so that way they can bundle it together. So really, really a great way to kind of partner with them and say, how can we fit into your overall solution and what are you trying to do for your client? It brings people the awareness here, but it also kind of helps us tap into other resources outside of the state and say, what is it that you guys are doing that we can let our clients know?
Yeah, and that's so interesting. I had heard that before, and I've never really thought about it. But you are right. We don't really have. I mean, we have high winds, but it's not really that big of a deal. But other than that, we really don't have any natural disasters. This would be, and that's probably why Facebook came to Los Lunas, I would imagine.
Yeah, that and the resources, I'm sure, are a little bit less expensive here to house something like that, but definitely.
Yeah. So whenever you get into, because I want to stay with this, but whenever you get into, because you talk about incentives, and then like explain like what would like co-selling or co-marketing look like?
Yeah. So for example, we have a partner that's based out of Austin, Texas, and his primary focus is on state, local, and education. So for us, we will in September put together a collaborative campaign that specifically targets the clients that he has in his wheelhouse. He has identified some of the other solutions that he would like to talk to schools about or education, or government about, and he's put together kind of like a webinar that says, look, we can provide this, this, and this as a bundle, and here are the solution providers that fit into that bundle. And so what we provide for him is we provide him a competitive rate, so that way he can bundle it in that package. And the way that we've decided on that, or the way that I designed this, is pretty simple. It's a 3-tiered program. So what this does is it allows companies of any size, if you're an MSSP that has 2 consultants in it, or if you're a big company that has 100 employees in it, essentially you can make your way through the program fairly just by activity, participating in campaigns together, sales. And each tier that you get to, you unlock a little bit deeper of a margin. So you can decide how you want to use that margin. If you have a 10% margin, then you can decide if you want to give your client the full 10%, or if you'd like to give them 5 and retain 5 as a commission.
That's crazy. So it allows you, so there is some flexibility. You implemented some flexibility in the program.
I did, and I did structure it and word it specifically to call it a flexible margin. We want our consultant partners, or our resale partners, to be able to say, for me to come in competitively at this, I might need to come in at a 7%, but have that other 3% either for myself, or maybe I need to come back and have that in my back pocket in order to become a little bit more aggressive if it comes down to that.
And I want to get into a little bit about, because we had talked about this out there, and I thought it was super interesting with the cybersecurity, because I know you work with companies large and small in that arena. Whenever, and you mentioned something that I thought is really interesting, and I want everyone to listen to this. What's the potential of risk when a company allows their employees to work from home, and what's some of the things how they can eliminate that risk?
Yeah, I think this is a buzzword right now, and unfortunately, even though it's a buzzword, just because it's prevalent, it hasn't not been an issue, right? I know that I rarely work in an office, so I work remotely all the time, and so my training in cybersecurity, as well as working remotely, is probably a bit more expensive than everybody else's that is now having to work from home and adapt to this new norm, right? I think that there's a lot of things that we get trained on in an office setting, like, okay, when you're at work, don't click on things that say this, don't click on anything that asks you for information on this. You get kind of a 101
right.
cybersecurity training, right? But I think when we go home, we don't really think about those same things in the best way, nor do we realize some of the other items that we might be open to. And one of my favorite ones is I attended a cybersecurity training for Optiv, and they do OptivCon, and they did it virtually this year. And one thing that they talked about that really kind of blew my mind that I doubt anybody else has told their employees or that they've thought about is your home IoT. So your Alexas, your smart apps, your devices that sync, all of these Internet of Things that we have to make our life convenient at home are now opening you up and your employees up and your company up to some cybersecurity issues that we really didn't consider, nor did we think about, because not very many people, have an Alexa on their desk, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of things that has been in the news recently about, the fact that maybe those Alexas or those Google Homes are listening. And, when it comes down to it, there are a lot of things that can be said in a meeting that trigger a recording. There's a lot of things that are downloaded that maybe sync to a family cloud that we don't consider thinking about or think to go back and check or delete. And it really opens up not only the business, but our clients, our customers, our partners, our patients, whoever it is, to have a breach of information if we're not really following, a little bit more of a cybersecurity realm. And VPN doesn't secure all of that.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually saw this. I was watching somebody, and they had like a really old version of Excel. And they were opening an Excel file, and it was like pretty extensive file with, a lot of financial information. And I'm like, because I know like a long time ago, Windows stopped doing security updates and stuff like that for older, like if you have Windows 7, I know they stopped stuff and all that. And I thought about that. I was like, this person just opened this up, in this program on their laptop that was sent to them through an email. It's like how secure is all of this? I think it's so important because, we don't even, they have these, they may not be able to have Excel on their computer. Maybe they can't afford it and it's a small business. So now you're opening this other converter.
Google Docs.
Yes.
On a non-secure Google Doc account. Absolutely. And, if there's two tips that I could give people that are working from home that are, is one, train your new employees or your new coworkers. And by new employees or coworkers, I'm talking about your remote students and your spouses, right? Now, not only are we working from home, but we are now working in a new quote unquote office setting, right? So we're sharing networks and devices, and, there's a lot of streaming going on, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get communicated to our children or our spouses that says, hey, you can't click on that. You can't do that. We need to check for this. Little things like that will go a long way, because I'll tell you right now, if your home network is compromised and you log into a VPN, there's a very good chance that your VPN just got back-ended into a breach because they were able to get in through something else. And a lot of people don't think about that. Yeah. And then the second thing I would say is unplug those IoT devices depending on what kind of a meeting you're having. You should unplug those Alexas or those recording devices that you have. And there's a tricky way, and a lot of people don't know this. You can ask your Alexa at the end of the day. You can say, Alexa, play back any recorded conversations that you have, and she will play back anything that she's recorded throughout the day.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. We kind of get so complacent. I think that's a key word in
comfortable.
Being, in our home. And then with everything going on, we're so appreciative of being able to work from home now. And I know in my, sphere of businesses I've talked to, productivity's gone through the roof, and, I've got a lot of companies that are, just really loving it. And this may become the new norm, for them.
Definitely.
Yeah, is to allow people to stay at home, whether they have children or dogs or whatever. It just gives them that freedom to be able to do that. So this is something that I think I really appreciate you bringing this up, because it's something that I don't think anyone, especially in small business, I don't think a lot of small businesses are thinking about this.
No, and what I used to tell people in my previous capacity, I would meet with small businesses that would say, we can't afford, nor do we think we're a target for any kind of cybercrime. We're just too small. We don't have that big of a contact list. We don't have that big of a, whatever it is. And my biggest response to them is, you're going to hear about the targets. You're going to hear about the Equifaxes. You're going to hear about all of the large breaches, because that's what makes the news. In the meantime, the cyber criminals are hoping that you small businesses are going to let your guard down, because they can get you for $10,000 here, $15,000 here. And that would definitely hurt a small business or shut them down. And those aren't the ones that make the news. So you are the low-hanging fruit, because they know that your maturity in cybersecurity, your posture is not great, your maturity is low, and you are an easy target, and they got to eat until they get the targets of the world.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize, because it's just a matter. I was in a company a while back, and we were going through email marketing, and they had been in business, since the 60s. So they had literally, as when AOL came out and all that, they started collecting email addresses. I mean, that was just part of what they did. And they had done that since the 90s on. And so you take these years and years and years, you don't realize what your CRM or your database has. They had 90,000 email addresses. This small little business, and then they had to get social security numbers and stuff like that. And so in their CRM, a cloud CRM, they had all these customers' social security numbers and stuff like that. And it's just like, to me, that would be like prime. Here I got 90,000 email addresses, and I got tens of thousands of social securities and date of births of these people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't think in the fact that we're kind of going through this health thing, right? Where we're really educating people on, if you sneeze on your hand, how many things do you touch and spread it to, right? We're kind of learning about that whole contact tracing and like the spread of things. Well, it's the exact same for cybersecurity. And sometimes prior to COVID, I used to explain to people, if I sneeze and touch 15 people, how many people are susceptible to that virus or that sickness? And it's the same with cybersecurity. Target didn't get breached because their cybersecurity was down. They got breached because they, quote unquote, shook hands with someone who did not have their posture in place. So, I think in general, when you think about some of those things, you have to think, do the partners that I work with, do I want to open them up to this, and their clients or their businesses that they work with? And really protecting your business is protecting your name. You don't want people to say, don't do business with them because, we did business with them and we got breached because they don't have a very good cybersecurity policy in place,
Yeah, and one of the things I've seen too, and I'm glad we're talking about this, is I saw somebody that was doing a lot of outsourcing to save money, and they were in different programs that they had, like I said, CRMs and different things like that, and they were making these, people from like Bangladesh and Ukraine and all that. And they just, instead of having them have the right privilege, they were just making them admin. So,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was laughing because it's so true.
Yeah, I've seen it all the time. It's like, oh yeah, there's this person I hired on, Upwork or whatever, and they're going to sit there and do this work, and I'll just make them admin on my WordPress site, and not even realizing, what they're doing and the amount of trust that they're giving somebody that hasn't earned it yet.
Yep.
So I want to get into a little bit more as far as like we got into cybersecurity. We kind of got into a little bit about what you're doing with companies. What are some of the things that you're seeing right now, especially in the tech industry? And I mean, we can talk New Mexico. I think that's great. But are you seeing an uptick, or are you seeing it kind of dwindling? What are you seeing whenever you're having companies approach you for tech in New Mexico?
Yeah, I think right now, if we talk about New Mexico specifically, it's no secret that New Mexico is behind the times a bit. There were a lot of things that we that we thought, we wouldn't need to put in place, or we weren't ready to adopt. We're typically, we round the corner a little bit after everybody else, after we've seen everybody else test it. We've seen how it works for everybody, and then we adopt it or implement it. And I think this whole scenario of virtualization in general across the country, well, around the world, right? We are forcing people to, take a look at their infrastructure. How robust is it? I mean, do you have backups? Are you diversifying? Where is your software-defined platforms living, and how secure are they? Do we have anybody that's on staff that's truly patch managing those vulnerabilities and making sure that we're not opening our clients, our patients, our students up for anything that, could be harmful? And I think what we're seeing right now is everybody taking 15 steps back, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's anything necessarily new. I think we're trying to figure out, okay, March, April, May, we did a fire drill. Everybody went virtual. Now we need to go back and we need to check the foundation and make sure that those virtualizations that we adopted in an emergent situation were adopted correctly, right? They're secure, they're functioning correctly. We either chose the right solution, or we need to relook at those solutions and decide which one works best for us. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that we're seeing is everyone taking 15 steps back.
No, I love that. And I just got done reading a book. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I think the author's name was Dan Heath, and it's called Upstream. And
no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's so amazing. But he goes, and I'll just use one story real quick because you have a systems mindset, so you'll love this. But he goes into Expedian, I think isn't that a travel website or something like that? Expedia.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yeah. Expedia. Yeah. And he goes into there, and they were getting mass amount of phone calls. I mean, just incredible. It was costing him $200 million a year to handle all these phone calls. And then they kind of doubled down on it, and they were like, hey, we're getting all these, customers are calling us. This is great. We need to have better call centers. We're going to have different tier levels, tier level 1, 2, 3. We're going to get these. So we're doubling down. And so they're spending all these hundreds of millions of dollars. And finally someone said, what are all the phone calls? What are they? And come to find out, it was people that were just 80% of the phone calls were people that didn't get their itinerary. So, that's a quick systems fix. Here they were doubling down and going, and this reminds me of what you said, and we'll talk about this, but, here they are spending hundreds of more millions of dollars so they can answer the phone calls and be a great company and do it in 5 minutes, when in all actuality, the emails are going to their spam, the people's itineraries, so they weren't getting them. Then a lot of people were misspelling their email, so they put an extra line to double check your email. And then it made it a little bit more clear on the website of how to get your itinerary. 80% of the phone calls went down. They saved millions and millions of dollars, So the book's kind of like, going upstream and looking and seeing and trying to prevent the problem before it even happens. And I think that's great in what you just said, because so many people now are experiencing, I was reading this online, mental fatigue, because we expected this to be done in a month and a half, 2 months, and now we're going, and this now, like you said, is probably going to become our new norm. We don't know if we're going to get a second wave and all this other junk, but it's like, and I love that. It's like, have we reacted? And a lot of companies pivoted well and did great. But, in that, have we gone back and looked at the foundation? Maybe you could talk more about that. Like, I just like that idea of saying, okay, let's lock ourselves in a room and go over everything that we did and then kind of go back and see where are we vulnerable at?
Yeah, I think in any IT project, big or small, right, you have this roadmap that says, this is where I want to go and this is where we are. And a lot of people think that the main stop in that roadmap is budget, right?
Right.
And I think what people forget is they need to go back even before the budget and decide a few things. One, what is the budget going to look like if we implement this solution and our systems go down, our clients get breached, our students get breached? What kind of a budget do we have, right? The other thing is, do we have the capacity to support this, or do we need to outsource it? Do we need someone to manage this service for us? If we don't have an IT team, do we have an IT team identified that can maybe help us with making sure that this is implemented correctly? And again, right, you saw a lot of people jump on the free Zoom or the free video conferencings of the world, and a lot of the things that weren't checked is we thought, okay, this is free, this makes great sense, right? But nobody went back and said, where is this information living? Where are these calls being transferred through? What are we doing, or what is being recorded that we need to keep in mind? And right now is the time to go back. If we're deciding to keep this new lifestyle in place, which you're seeing all over the place, right? I think it was like Adidas or somebody that announced that they're or REI announced that they're going to close their headquarters and just keep everybody virtual. And I think that's great,
Right.
but I think everybody, if you're going to keep it long term or you're going to be more flexible in work schedules, whether it's 1 to 2 days, just make sure you go back and check those systems. Where are they living? How secure is everything? And really, how trained are your employees on making sure that they're operating, ethically or correctly when they're, doing remote desk protocol?
Yeah, and I know on a lighter note, it wasn't funny for you, but you had a security breach today, right?
Oh yes.
So you were at a gas station?
Yes, and lost my phone. It was taken, and so I, have been. You and I were joking prior to this, but I'll just retouch on it. You don't really realize, one, how much information do I have on my phone, right?
Yes.
I have so much information on my phone. So I immediately panic, because I have all of my credit cards and my logins and everything already on my phone. And then second, it's the first world problems, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't have Spotify now, or I can't, check my whatever, my tracking on this order that I ordered. I have to actually log in and do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
And we get complacent.
You said
we
you
don't
even
realize
listened
that our phones store all of our passwords.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird. Somebody showed me a couple years back. They were like, "Oh, you need your password? Chrome saves all your passwords." There's like this Chrome password manager. And I was like, "Really? I never knew this." And so I went in there and looked, and now I use it all the time. But yeah, you don't even think about that. Like how much information is stored on your phone. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes. And so I could not remember some of my passwords without my phone, which is not okay.
Yeah, I know. I've had I had phones stolen off my desk before. I've had all different kinds of things. So it's that's something, like it said, is like simple as putting, I mean, you were at the gas station, so you can't help that. But, and I think somebody like opened your door and grabbed your phone, or your door was open and they like just kind of grabbed it real quickly.
Yes. So, lock your door when you're pumping your gas.
Yeah. And we just, like you said, we get so, caught up in whatever we're thinking that we're doing or whatever, that we, it's one of those things. And I don't like people to live like scared and fearful all the time, Like I see that where people are like putting the tape over the little, over the little cameras, and then they
Yes.
and I know somebody that logs in and out of Facebook only through, a VPN that's a browser or whatever. They
Or a
won't
private browser.
yeah, they won't download the app and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I'm not doing anything nefarious, so I'm fine with people. I get collecting my data or whatever, and I get that they're collecting mass amounts of data and GPS locations and all that. But really, when you think about it, we like as a nation as a whole, and as especially small business owners, I think we're extremely vulnerable. I think this is worse than people realize.
Yeah, I think we get comfortable, and trusting in a lot of ways. And it's, like you said, you don't need to, there are some things that we probably focus on too much, like the camera on your laptop. I read an article once about, how likely is it that someone's going to hack into your webcam on your laptop? Well, not likely, because they don't really want to watch someone. They really more so just want your information. And so
right.
if they're going to spend the effort to do that, they're going to just break into your account and figure out, your passwords or your account information. They really don't want to see you, walking around or
unless you're like
the web.
Brad Pitt or like a celebrity, maybe they would want to, but
maybe
it's just like an ego issue. It's like, oh my goodness, somebody would want to walk. Yeah. I mean, that's funny, but you would not. Yeah. And that's so common sense. Like they want your social security number. They don't want to like watch you walk around in your room. Yeah. I mean, that's like the dumbest.
Yes. And it takes a lot of effort from what I have read to get into those cameras, and I could be wrong, but from what I've read, it's pretty difficult. And the same effort could be done to just break into your system and get your information.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what do you, on something, because I kind of want to be like a little bit more practical with business owners. And I know you see it all the time. What are some of the things that you're seeing, not just on the cyber side, maybe on, sales, marketing, whatever it may be, especially when we're looking at, tech companies, online companies, there's a huge shift. And I've been seeing this more and more where people are selling products online, and creating these websites and stuff like that. I've had several friends of mine, and they've been so far successful, like monthly subscription boxes and stuff like that. What are you seeing with companies, and are you seeing a shift to that?
Yeah, I think it's a convenience thing, right? We want to keep everybody comfortable, and there's still a large group of people that are not quite comfortable in going out and getting something, right? I think making sure you have a convenience go-to-market strategy is good, whether it's, that you have a video conferencing in order to help them, that you have an availability. So, if you're helping somebody, and they reach out to you, do you have the correct communication in place to make sure that you're staying top of mind to them and they know that they're staying top of mind to you? I think that the communication as everyone is separated is so key right now. And then I think thinking creatively, we're seeing a lot of people that are worried about, sales or things along those lines. And kind of what I did with this partner program and, how I kind of design this is, look outside of hiring a team. You don't need a team to expand your sales. Identify other businesses that might be going through the same thing as you. Identify other companies outside of the state or, within the state, maybe outside of your city limits that has, something else that's going on where you guys can leverage each other. Partner programs or online presence, all of these things are inexpensive to you, but can expand your reach without hiring a sales force.
Yeah. And I like that because I know this is kind of more tech oriented, but like collaborative campaigns. And I've seen that with Instagram where they have the co-marketing, like you had talked about, so you can take a brand that may have a different reach on Instagram and then turn around and partner with them. Do some videos or something like that, and then you guys do some digital marketing campaigns, do them together, And then,
Absolutely.
split costs and stuff like that, I think, are like you said, and you have in the program, referrals. I think people, you
Yep.
think of that word as like old school, but not understanding the capacity we have of referrals now, especially when we have LinkedIn and all these other, digital marketing
Yeah,
sources.
and I'm glad that you brought up the referral portion of it, because I mentioned the 3 tiers, right? But the referral program is our way of expanding without it being a fellow tech company. We might have a real estate agent who's saying, my client wants to downsize, they're all going remote, and I don't know how to help them since they're not really interested in real estate. Well, the referral program allows us to say, okay, we can help you identify that virtual office, right? And that sits in the data center. Where do those virtual platforms live? You can now help your client with a creative way of going virtual without having to sell them a 4-wall brick and mortar solution, right? You can say, are you going virtual? Well, let's talk to this data center. Let's store all of your stuff in one place and keep all of your remote or your software defined platforms running smoothly. And essentially, your virtual office or workforce is being housed out of this data center. So, you don't want to think partnerships have to be in the same line. And we get a lot of other people too, like an investment broker. How can they help these businesses rebudget, reallocate funds? And a lot of it might be, hey, we need to downsize in real estate, or hey, we need to increase in some of these other areas. Well, this referral portion of our program allows those people that might not be a fellow tech company to say, I have an idea. This is a very creative way for me to help you. Let's set up a meeting and see if it works for you. And I think thinking outside of the box like that, it is great, right? Don't think within the parameters of your industry. Who else might be having the same problem, and how can you help them?
Yeah, and you mentioned the word, and I love it. You were talking about like sales coaching, and so then you're looking at a company that may do sales coaching, and it's like, well, how could they help? But that may be something. Maybe this sales coaching company has found a new way to do virtual sales and give presentations online. And that could be, or they have a platform for that. Where you can do email videos or whatever. I'm just making stuff up, but I like that idea of having like these cross platforms.
Yeah, and I think the sales coaching like that I have outlined in the Accelerate Partner Program for this company is, you can't expect that everyone is going to understand how to sell your product the best way. You know how to sell your product the best way. So a sales coaching doesn't necessarily even have to come from maybe an outside perspective, but if you're going to have an effective partnership in place, you need to ensure that they know how to sell your product and how to sell it correctly. Because if you have a product out there and you're saying, let's partner, sell my product, and they don't quite understand what you do, but they understand that there's an incentive involved, they may sell your product incorrectly, and that doesn't work well for either of you. Just providing some tips and tricks and saying, look, let's be a partner. Here's the best way for us to sell this product that we've seen successful. This is the best pain points that we address, or this is the best way that we go to market. Let me help you with the marketing or providing some insight on how to sell it or where we fit in your portfolio of services.
Yeah, no, I love that. And one of the other things that you talk about, and I know, like I said, this is the system side of you, but you talk about the program having repeatable processes. Can you go into that a little bit in detail, and then maybe convert it over to like a business owner and why it's so important to have these processes in place?
So, yes. So in the past, and currently, what I find a lot is when someone calls me for direction or help with their channel or their partner programs, you see that, they have already started to do something that is developing some kind of a partner program. And a lot of times what you see is like that one-off, like, you're having beers with someone and you're like, yeah, if you sell my product, I'll give you 10%. And then maybe the next person is, yeah, if you sell my product, we'll give you 15%, and no one can keep track of it.
Right.
And there's no like real incentive for any of them to do well. So the repeatable process that I put in here, is a program that's structured to benefit any size, any person, and they know the expectation. So, it doesn't matter how big or small the company is, they all can work their way through the same tiering by having those same guidelines put in place. And for a business owner, especially a small business owner or a startup company or something along those lines, organization is key because you just don't have the bandwidth or the manpower to hunt down agreements or remember what the conversation was, or, that those kinds of things that we tend to do when things are informal. So designing these up front and saying that these are the parameters and this is how you, play in the space or are successful in the space, really sets those guidelines so there's no confusion later as you grow, because that's the overall objective, is to grow the business. And if you want to grow successfully and not, aggregate partners or drop the ball on deals, then this is the best way to really keep your partnerships and their clients on track.
Yeah, and I know you're an expert in this arena. And for people, like I said, for people that are just listening to this and may not understand, could you use the word channel and SLED and all that? Can you kind of go into details about, how you help companies and specifically, what your strategies are when somebody approaches you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to say that my overall, tactical way of handling it, tactics, is really assessing where they are. Are you already forming partnerships? Do you have one-off clients that you're interested in? And does your product, your solution, fit in the space that is available to kind of build out these programs? When it comes to a SLED market, and I always want to clarify what SLED is because a lot of people get confused, is it's those state, local, and education entities. They have strict guidelines. Maybe they get federal funding. Maybe there's programs that they're participating in. And if you're a solution provider that's trying to do business with those entities, it is a long marathon of guidelines and boxes to check. Right. So typically when someone calls me and says, we don't have a SLED side of the business, or we want to tap into that market, can you help us? A lot of times I have to start again 15 steps back and say, does your solution meet all of the criteria? And then how can we get you to the next step? And a lot of times what that means is, going out for RFPs, buying use cases in a sense. So coming in low on a price on your first deal with one of those entities, so that way you can get that use case. And really trying to understand all the complexities that go into a procurement vehicle in that space, because typically you do have to have some sort of a procurement vehicle in order to sell into that space. And then with the channel, it's just really identifying those key partners, making sure that your solution fits in their portfolio. If you're offering a virtual conferencing platform, how is it different than the other ones? Where's your price point at? And how well does it fit with other markets and other solutions, so that way those people can bundle it together?
Yeah, no, I love that. And one of the things that, I'm always letting people know is the more, and you use the word tactical, which I like, that I was in the Marine Corps, but the more that you can be like laser focused, and I hate to say this for bad, but like more of a sniper shot, and be as specific as you can. Like you said, a lot of people may have a desire to do something, but then when it comes to actually executing on that and then implementing it, and if it even fits the need, because there's a difference between, as we all know, a want and a need. And if you're not allowing that, if you're not providing value ultimately to the company that you're trying to sell your product to, I don't care how much money you throw at it, they're going to scoff their nose at you. It's just, it's not practical. So I love that 15-step approach backwards to see even if it's viable or not.
Yes. And you got to assess it, and then there's got to be a concept before there's, a way to conceptualize it. And a lot of people forget the assessment and the concept, and they go straight to trying to conceptualize and execute. And a lot of times that leaves, and not to sound too much like a cybersecurity nerd, but that leaves a lot of vulnerabilities in your strategy, right? And a lot of areas where things can fall through the cracks, or get left behind. And then a lot of times that's where you see people failing at implementing these or executing them so they can track them and understand how it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we almost up on an hour here, so I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time, Lauren. But if like somebody wants to get a hold of you or they want to see this project, I know you had some press releases and stuff like that. What is the best way? Can they Google it or can they, see you on LinkedIn? What's the best way for them to see this and get a hold of you?
Yeah, so people can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Lauren Trujillo, and that's Trujill, and my maiden name is also on my LinkedIn, and that's Hull, Hull. And yes, in relation to the Rio Rancho mayor, that's my dad. People always ask that question. And I always joke about that and always have to give him a shout out because people either ask him if he's related to me or they ask me if I'm related to him. So and then for the Accelerate program, to learn more about that, you can go to the company website at BigByte, and that's BIGBYTE.cc.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing program you design. It's really cool. We're going to try to get this. So we're going to put it out on the air right now, but we're going to try to get this done by Wednesday. And so to get the podcast out by Wednesday, we're going to do some things. But why is it so important that we get it out on Wednesday? Because I want to give a shout out to this.
It's Wednesday. Not only happens to be my birthday, but Wednesday is also National Women's Equality Day. And, I think it's important, especially in the tech world or in corporate America or wherever you are, to acknowledge or have that voice for women and the equality and how far we've come in order to play in the space.
Yes, I agree 100%. We were talking about that a little bit off the air, because I think it was like early 2000s. They were saying, the percentage of women that are in the tech industry, especially like Silicon Valley, all that whole area there, it was amazing how there was hardly any diversity at all. And then the way that, you had like, Sheryl Sandberg, I think is she the CEO now or CFO of Facebook? You had a couple leading, the lady with Hewlett Packard that ran for president, but it was extremely rare. But they showed a chart the other day of companies that are women CEOs now, and the percentage from like 2008 to now, and it's up hundreds of percent. So that's really exciting. And I'm super stoked for that.
It's still a little low. I think women in cybersecurity in 2020, the statistic was less than 24% of women are in cybersecurity.
Wow.
And it's less than 23% of women that are in C-level or executive level roles in tech in general. So still a little low. I think, making sure that we help women to we need to clear the way for them, understand that it's not as, scary, or I don't know what the word would be to jump into this realm. And I hope that more women kind of come into it so that way they can understand it's pretty awesome once you get here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, especially with cybersecurity, we always think of that general, it always seems to be like a militaristic type thing, but it was awesome having you on the podcast. I so appreciate it. Learned a ton, which I always love, being able to learn. Hope that this program that you have and that you've implemented, you can tell you've put, how many hours did you put into this thing?
Oh gosh, it took me about 2.5 months to design this from the ground up. So.
Oh, wow.
And that included the agreements, the marketing materials, the structure, the outreach, and how we would track it in our customer relationship management system. So a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I will try to get the podcast out as quickly as possible on Wednesday because we know that's your birthday. So happy birthday, Lauren. And
thank you.
And we'll be excited. I hope everyone follows you on LinkedIn, and we'll just be waiting to hear more great things coming out of New Mexico, especially in the tech industry.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on here.
Okay, thanks, Lauren.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. business. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share and go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.